morning. It's the day after Labor Day. It's Tuesday. I was supposed to work yesterday, but my client, I talked to her Sunday, and she's feuding with her neighbors. They've been having this ongoing thing. And so a lot of the work that she's doing, the stuff she's hiring me to do, is to deal with these crazy people who she thinks are tweakers, and they keep trying to mess with her. It happens, right? She sent me a video yesterday. The guy was barbecuing, and they put fans up, and they blow the smoke into her yard right underneath the thing that I built. So all the smoke goes underneath that roof, goes across her yard. She'd been telling me she's been having these problems for a while. So when we were talking Sunday about me coming in on Monday, you know, I'm not thinking about the holiday. Sorry. I got other things on my mind, but she reminded me, and I said, you know what? Maybe it's good that I don't show up tomorrow, meaning yesterday, which would have been Monday, for those of you paying attention. Just in case he was doing something stupid like that, because if that happens when I'm there, it's not going to go well. I don't know how I'm going to, you know, I wouldn't be able to ignore it. I would be over that fence dealing with that guy. And she sent me the video yesterday. I was like, oh my God, that's crazy. So I did all that metal roofing tin, and she already put like almost 2 feet above her wall in her yard. She looked at the law, and she's allowed to do that. Turns out she's actually allowed to go almost as high as she wants if there's an issue with a neighbor. Apparently, I don't know. She looked this stuff up. She said it's legal to do it. So we might be putting up another section on top of her wall that's the corrugated metal. It's going to be like living in a prison. But they put a pool in and everything, and people get on this thing and they look into her yard. It's crazy what's going on. That's not what I wanted to talk about. I'm just saying, it's on my mind all of a sudden. Somebody asked me in the comments, one of the videos, recent videos, how I got out of the film industry. So I figure I would give you that while I'm driving to work this morning, and maybe add some more stuff with the job. I don't know what I'm doing. I got no liquid. Here we go. Anyhow, as I was saying, this light's about to change. So, and I got into like carpentry pretty young. We had like when I lived in Paterson, New Jersey, even though that was a tough place to grow up, the public school system at the time was interesting because we didn't have junior high. You know, I went to this little public school, PS 27, that had went from kindergarten to 8th grade, and from 4th grade to 8th grade. Well, from 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th grade, you got to, you had half a year of home ec and half a year of shop. And then 8th grade, you got to choose. I, of course, chose home ec because that's where the girls were, and that's where the food was. So, anyhow, my grandfather, who wasn't blood related, it was my grandmother's third husband, had a shop in the garage, and he remodeled that whole house and built the cabinets and everything. He even had a contract with the government at one point to build desks. So yeah, I would go out. He didn't really like talking to me too much, this guy, war veteran. A lot of these war vets I grew up around were not big talkers. So, anyhow, I would go in there and I would stand around and watch him work a lot. He would let me do that. Like, you know, I could stand in a corner, just watch him work. But that was like, as I recall, I mean, really, I think I mentioned my first real paid carpenter job when I was about 5. It was the guy siding the house behind my father's bakery. And just to get me out of his hair, he handed me a magnet and asked me to walk around the perimeter of the house, which is all beach sand, and pick up all the nails out of the sand. So that's how long I've been doing this stuff. 53 years. So anyhow, when I got out of the service, I started working for this company. We were doing a condo that got stopped by town. Then he bought all these properties on the island, and we started building all these houses. And then I quit, and then I got other jobs with other people, and I learned a lot, but I had the aptitude for it. So I picked all this stuff up real quick, and I had this thing in me, partially from my father, because he was really good at what he did. And he was respected, grown men would shake my hand when I was a kid to tell me how much they respected my father. So I understood that if you're going to do something, do it to the best of your ability, man. So I've always had that. Plus, I just got out of the Corps, and although my experience was horrible for the most part, I loved it. I loved the guys. I loved the training. But you guys know my story already. I had a bitter taste in my mouth about it. However, that whole process that you go through with earning the Eagle, Globe, and Anchor and becoming a Marine, the getting up every morning before the sun is up and doing this and doing that, it's discipline. So I learned discipline, and I learned how to work through pain and be someplace on time and always give 100%, and integrity, which is always doing the right thing even when nobody's there to see it, right? Anyhow, that's who I am as a human being, and that helps with what you do. And if you have a natural aptitude towards things, you can progress very quickly. And going all the way back, I was an artist as a kid, and blah, blah, blah. The top architecture student in high school, and all these things culminated to where I can invent something in my mind, I can construct it in my brain. Somebody asked me to do a video on doing shop sketches. It's a hard thing to do. I could do it. I could draw something out, and I suppose I could explain why I'm laying the lines down on the paper in the order that I'm laying them down. But the easiest way to explain it is I can construct it in my brain completely, like to the finite detail. I'm lazy now. I'm mentally lazy about it because when I was younger, I would plan it out to the nth degree, and I would stress out over things too much, and I wasn't getting any sleep. So I eventually got to the point where I've done it so many times now, after decades of doing it, I don't worry too much. I just start working, and as I'm working, it comes to me and I figure it out. It's really not the right way to do it, but it's how I do it. So after doing all these jobs and working in cabinet shops and getting a job and quitting a job and moving from that job to this job and using all these tools and developing my skills, I was getting burnt out on it already. I decided, I went to college for a couple of years, Ocean County College. I got into the nightclub business. I started working the door. I became a bouncer, a bartender, and a DJ. And I did that for 5 years. But even during that time, I was still doing carpentry work. When I left Jersey and I came to LA, I was burnt out on that. I didn't know that I wanted to keep doing it. But that's what happened. And even the apartment that I'm still in today, I got it because I was able to build things and fix things. And I met people living there. And this one woman who lived there at the time, we became friends for years. And she's a writer, actress, model, producer. And I got into theater set design and construction because of her. Because she was working on this show and they needed somebody to design and build the sets. And I did a little of it in college too. I took theater in college. So I was first exposed to theater when I was in college. So I came out here, I didn't know that that would happen, but I did get involved in acting, and that happened because where I came from, you know, a lot of people that come to LA, where they came from, they were a big fish in a little pond, right? And that's kind of what it was for me. I didn't feel that about myself, really. I was pretty humble about it. I was confident, but it was people that were always telling me, you don't belong here. Yeah, you should be an actor. You should be a model. You should do this. You should do that. I never thought I was that handsome of a fella, to be honest with you. I mean, I knew there was something going on because I used to score a lot with the girls, all that, you know. But I had friends. I'm from Jersey. And when you're from Jersey and you have friends and they're from Jersey, you get screwed with all day long. So your friends keep you in check. That's what your friends are supposed to do. That's the problem with rich and famous people and celebrities. They don't have enough friends from the... Adam Sandler would be one of the examples of somebody that probably still has friends from the old days that keeps him in check. The celebrities that are walking around really full of themselves, that's because they don't have any friends from the old days to keep their asses in check. Anyhow, I started off just doing theater sets, and I've mentioned this before, but my name appeared, like, I have the first ever issue of Los Angeles Magazine. I bought it and kept it because the guy, one of the writers in there, did a review of a play I was working on called The Coils of Death, and I'm mentioned in that article for designing and building the sets. Hollywood Reporter, LA Times, I can't remember, the Weekly, I don't know, I can't remember all the little papers, but my name was in a lot of them because I did a very good job. I once did a play called Spaghetti and Apple Pie, and I recreated like a 1920s or 30s brownstone tenement apartment. I even had a clawfoot tub on stage with running water with all period correct plumbing fixtures and everything that I ripped out of the building that I still live in today because it was built in the 20s. So I was good at that. And eventually through these same people, I met this other guy, big dude. We used to call him the Viking, from also from New Jersey. We met because we helped move this woman who had been a model, really interesting, really hot chick, man, from Britain. And when she had moved here, I think like in the 70s or something, she was living with Glenn Ford, the actor. So I got to hang out with her a lot. I became friends with her. She had been a vegan for decades, and later in life, she was so sickly, she couldn't open a jar. And she went to the doctor, and the first thing the doctor told her after running her blood work was, yeah, you got to start eating some meat. So she was one of those vegans early on who did that 180. She's like, oh shit, I got to start eating meat. Anyhow, I ended up, this guy was in the film business already. He later went on and became a grip, but at the time he was a carpenter. So he got me in on my first movie, and which was it was a Disney production. I did a lot of films. Mostly I did films, but I can't tell you all the films I worked on because it didn't matter to me really. It was getting in with the crew, getting the job. And it's a union business, but there's a lot of non-union work. And in the 90s, there was a lot of non-union work that turned union, that sort of thing. That was everybody's goal, was to get a union gig. So that was, and that I mean, I met the people, I thought, well, maybe that's what I should do. I don't know. They were all driving brand new pickup trucks and owned houses and everything, and looked like a pretty good thing. So the first job I got, it had a lot of carpenters on it. I'm not exaggerating. We probably had 20 to 30 carpenters working on this production, and other skilled crafts. You know, we had sculptors. You know, we built a giant castle, and we had sculptors making gargoyles out of foam. It blew my friggin' mind. What blew my mind the most was the amount of waste. I had never seen that before. Water bottles alone on a movie set would fill just truckloads of empty water bottles alone. It always got to me was the hypocritical nature of it, because you would hear these people. I was non-political at that time, really. I was just an average citizen, son of an immigrant, living alone since I was 14, already a veteran. I've been working since I was a kid. So, I had this blue-collar, pro-America, hard-working vibe. And I was working on set which is one of the reasons why I got out of the business, with all these people that were hardcore liberals just saying the dumbest shit I ever heard in my life. And keep in mind, like, a lot of the work I had done up to that point had been cash. When I first got out of the service, when I was building houses, when I was getting a paycheck, it was $4.75 an hour. Reagan was president. You know what I mean? It was a different time. And and then the nightclub business, you got paid, but it was all tips, really, and cash. Like, when I was DJing, they were giving me, like, I don't know, a couple $100 a night, and that was cash. Plus, I'd make tips for playing people's music. And so it was just a different world. When I got into the film business, I remember getting my first checks and looking at how much money that they took out of your check. That's when I really was like, I started paying attention more. Like, what the hell? And I would hear people talk shit about capitalism all day long. I don't know what that was about, because I would listen to that and I would argue with them. Not argue, but just give them another point of view. Like, what are you saying? Like, it seems to me like you guys are in a business that is one of the ultimate capitalist success stories. I mean, I knew people at that time that, dude, what the fuck are you doing? I knew people at that time who, stupid people driving on the highway. I knew people at that time that lost my train of thought because of dumb shit that I could have just killed me. I was saying about, I don't remember what I was going to say. Bastard. Well, the whole capitalism thing was funny to me. So, and I would say this, so I knew people at that time who, they were actually selling treatments for stories. Like, I knew guys that could make $50,000 to $75,000 for a treatment for a script. That's how it was back then. It was pretty wild. And this merging in the traffic on the highways in Los Angeles is crazy. So I understood how people were making money in that business, and I would point this out to them. I say, look, you guys are working in a business where you can make money selling an idea, then that idea gets developed, right? And everybody gets paid. So the people writing the script get paid, the people, everybody makes money. A little army comes together to create a film. Thousands of people to make a movie. Every one of those people are making, for the time, really good money. And you're getting excellent benefits and all these things. That's capitalism, man. That's not communism. It's not socialism. That's capitalism. Didn't matter what you looked like, anything. We had women doing traditionally men's jobs in the movie industry. That was a big deal for me. I came from the blue-collar, real world. It was just men. And when I was doing it back in Jersey, building houses and everything, it was just white guys. I didn't see Hispanic guys on the job, black guys on. I mean, if you would have went north, I'm sure. But I just worked with white guys. It was down in Ocean County, New Jersey, so that makes sense. I'm just saying. It was a culture shock for me, and to hear all these people complaining about shit. And then I would make sense to them. And the people I made sense to kept their distance from me because, just like today, they don't want their programming questioned, right? So that was a thing. And the waste was a thing. And I learned a lot. But the big thing was you had to have your tools on your body all the time if you were a carpenter. And you never worked less than 10 hours a day. Most of your days were 12-hour days. And if you weren't building something, you had to look busy. That's how it was. And that was bullshit. Where I came from, you know, you worked a normal day, and I mean, once in a while you might work a little late. If you didn't work 8 hours and there was a discrepancy in hours, it was usually less than 8 hours. You know, like you get to a stopping point sometimes. When you're working for yourself, like I can create my own stopping points, right? I get to a point in the day, I get something accomplished, and it's 3 o'clock in the afternoon, let's say, 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I'm at a point where, okay, my next step is going to require so many steps to set up or something. I'm just going to be like, nah, I'll do that tomorrow morning. So, you know, and I just figured all that out pretty early on. And that's the big reason. So it was a combination after working. And what happened really was injuries. So I mentioned this thing in '96. I was working on this film, Restoration. It was Robert Downey Jr., Meg Ryan, Sam Neill. I blew my ankle out. That led to 4 years not being able to work because I had 3 major ankle operations, including a ligament reconstruction. And when I recovered from that, I still had all these connections in the industry. So I started working with this guy. We did more low-budget stuff and some TV. So I did 2 or 3 seasons on a TV show called Brothers Garcia. I had done I have some construction coordinator credits and foreman credits and all that good stuff. And then I went, like I said, I went back in the like 99, 2000, and was working on a TV show, and I blew my knee out, my right knee, which ended up, I ended up getting a scope in that knee. And after that injury is when I pulled away. So it was a combination of hours, the BS of having to wear your tools all day, busy work, and being around people that I just didn't see eye to eye with because I came from the real world of working hard. The movie industry is filled with people who aren't really great, believe it or not. Special effects people, writers, that's different. But as far as the carpenters go and all the other jobs, the art department, you know, that's filled with people that are likable to the people that are hiring them. It's cronyism is the big, that's the name of the day there in the film industry. It's just who likes you, who's likable, who's fun to be with on set. And that led to a huge problem for me. And I could tell you multiple stories of me having problems on the set with people, which in the end was turned around on me. Like I was the guy with the problem because I took my job too seriously. And I've told some of the stories before, and I don't need to tell any more here because that's the end of this video. Because I got to get to work here and unload the tools and get some work done. If I decide to tell you more, then this video will keep running. But I'm going to sign off here just in case I'm not going to do that. So one of the things that was everybody wanted to get into the unions, and I never wanted to really get in the union. No, I can't do this with her. Alright, so I know people are curious. This is the framing. I'm going to be putting this T111 stuff that's up here. In here, and it insets, gets nailed to this, and so I got enough framing here, you know, 4 feet on center, and this gap here is less than these gaps here, so we're golden. And it's relatively square. This thing is moved a little, and this whole thing is curved because that's wet lumber when you buy it, but that's just what's happening right now. And yeah, stick around. We'll talk more about the union part of the film industry in a moment. Holy cow, man. Okay, my van says 111 degrees right now. Holy crap, it is hot. That heat really just sucks the energy out of you, man. So, as I was working, I did think of another thing I could tell you about, you know, while I was doing the film business, because it was everybody's goal. Oh, I gotta turn the air on, man. Woo. Oh, by the way, the van is leaking again. It's the front main seal. We had them replace the whole timing cover, and they did it right? So they had to take the oil pan off and everything. So I watched a bunch of videos on it, and I understand what you need to do. This should be a separate video. I'm just going to mention it real quick. But that seal on the outside, you should put some silicone. On the inside of it, you should put some grease, because you don't want the what is it called? The harmonic balancer goes through it, and you don't want to start the engine and run that dry, because it'll burnish it and then you'll get a leak. So you want to put some grease in there. But the other thing is there's a keyway on there, and there's a keyway, there's a key. It's just a slot. And then there's a slot on the inside of the harmonic balancer. That's what locks it in place. And you should put some silicone in that when you pop it on. I was listening to some pro mechanic say he's been doing this for decades, and he does that all the time, but he's seen people not do that and then have it lead to leaks. So I got to do that. Now, back to, I throw all this in there because I know a lot of you guys are watching the video for all kinds of different reasons. So the film business, so everybody wants to be in the union, because once you get in the union, you know, you're getting the pay, you're usually getting in with a good crew, and you get benefits and everything else. That's what people want. So I worked 5 different shows that went union, right? Each time I was supposed to join the union. At the time, in the 90s, I believe it was like $4,000 to join the union. So you got to pay to be part of this. And, you know, you get a really cool sweatshirt out of it. But they don't get you work. You basically get work based on your reputation. So at the end there, I was working on a TV show that went union. It was for Nickelodeon. It was called Brothers Garcia. And I was the foreman, and then I ended up, I think the last season I was the coordinator on it. I don't even remember all this stuff, but I did some really cool stuff there. But the last couple seasons, you know, the president of the union, the local 44, you know, called the place and told them that I got to go to see him. And he knew who I was, and he already knew who I was. I'd been to see him by the end a total of 3 times. And it was so funny because I'd sit in his office and we'd laugh, you know, I'd make him feel good, he'd make me feel good, we got along real fine. And he just kept telling me, you know, we can't allow you to take these jobs if you don't join the union. Yeah, but I never joined the union. And he would ask me why I wasn't joining the union. And I told him, I was like, well, I don't know, I haven't made a decision where I think I want to keep this gig, man. Like, I want to keep doing this. Because, again, the hours just sucked. And the busy work factor of it, right? Like I said, it's like, if you didn't have anything to do right at that moment, you know, you have to wear your tools all day, and then you got to push a broom or just stay busy. And you had to stay there for 10 to 12 hours a day. And that was just nonsense, in my opinion, because, again, I came from the real world. When I say I came from the real world, there's a joke in Los Angeles about set carpenters, right? Because set carpenters know how to build sets. They don't know how to build real houses unless they've built real houses. And there's this thing, you can look this up. I don't know how true it is, but it's what was always said, and it's written a lot about. I'm still getting frustrated on the highway here. There's people just driving too slow. So Charlie Chaplin had a house right up there. I forget the area, but it's right up Beechwood Canyon there, where you know, you're underneath the Hollywood Land sign. It says Hollywood Land. It's like Hollywood Realty's right there. And that's Charlie Chaplin's old house is right there. And the joke about Chaplin's old house was it was always falling apart. He constantly, it was like the Winchester House. The Winchester House, that woman was crazy. She thought it was haunted, or she was being haunted by the demons of all the people that were killed by the Winchester rifles. So she built this house and kept having carpenters do all this crazy stuff to it to confuse the spirits so they couldn't get her. And with Chaplin, the story really is it was just falling apart all the time because set builders built it. And I got a funny story for you. There was a girl I knew, she was a set dresser and became the head of that department later. She did a lot of big TV shows and movies and HBO and all that. And she hired a set carpenter to hang some stuff in her house and work in her bathroom. And the guy, you know, didn't think about pipes being in the wall because he's a set carpenter. And he just drilled through in a bunch of places. And this was an apartment. Went right through the water lines and flooded her apartment, flooded the apartment downstairs, wrecked the building because he was a set carpenter. Because there's things as a real carpenter who builds real houses that you know and learn that you don't learn if all you ever build is sets. That's all I'm saying. The movie world is not the real world. And there was all these funny sayings about it too, like, you know, it only has to look good from about the thigh level to just over your head because that's where the camera's shooting, you know? Anyhow, I would go and have these meetings with the president of the local 44. And we got along great. And as I said, I just kept telling him I just wasn't sure that I was going to keep doing it. And I never did it. And what happened was that last one, as I mentioned, the last season that I worked on Brothers Garcia, I blew my knee out and I needed to have that surgery. And that was a real hassle. So that's all. That's the story. So I never joined the union. Didn't really care about it. Had I joined the union, and I would have done that back in the 90s, I would have been on Easy Street. I could have done 20 years and already been out of that business and been getting a pension and everything. But I don't think I would have survived it. I was just getting too banged up. And here's the other thing. Most of the guys that I worked with that had been there longer than me, almost every carpenter I worked with had a disability claim from being hurt on a movie set. It was just an accepted part of the business that you're going to get injured. And the reason you're getting injured is because they're making you wear your tools all day, you're hustling and bustling all day, and it's like a minimum 12-hour day. And there's days, man, that you'll do 12 hours, 14 hours, 16 hours. It's crazy. The people who are into it, that are getting the union pay, they want to do that because you get time and a half, then you get your golden hour, where it's double time, where it's over 14 hours or something like that. It's wild. They'll pay you to stay for 20 hours. That's rare, but it does happen. It's actually not that rare, but it can happen. You're supposed to have, I think, at least 6 hours between the time that you get off that day and the time you start the next day. So it's just a drudge, you know. And the thing is like, you do have a pretty good time with most of the fellas. You know, it's just a movie. And you're hearing that all day long too, you know. I'd always get, Mike, it's not a piano. You're not building a piano. And then the other thing always was, don't take it so seriously. It's just a film. But what I learned was the bigger budget pictures, where I was with the better crews, where we always had enough guys, more than enough guys, those were the good jobs because we didn't have a lot of pressure. After my big injury where I got the ankle operations and everything, I came back and I worked with this guy, Frank Adata was his name. We were pretty good friends for a while too, but that didn't last. He was underbidding other people. So we never had enough guys, and we never had enough time, and there wasn't enough planning. And so that always sucked, because you can't shoot what you need to shoot. And if it ain't built, and if we don't have enough lead time to get the thing constructed, in a timely way, well, now, we were constantly running around trying to get things done at the last minute, and working with a lot of kooky producers and design coordinators and all that. I don't want to just drop all these names. They're probably not even in the business anymore, but quite a few of the people that we worked with, not that pro. They're pro. They were pro. They were making movies, but we were all, a lot of that was, like I said, non-union. That would turn union, or we would get a union, pay for it a lot of the time. But that's what it boils down to. Injuries, too much time, and at the end of the day, that's the other thing. It was really funny. At the end of the day, everything that you make goes in the garbage. That was the crazy thing. Like, the first show I ever worked on, I went and took a bunch of flats, those are the walls, and a bunch of stuff, man, and I brought it home, and I was using it on the theater sets that I was building. So that saved a bunch of money for the theater people, Actually, I was able to make more money that way. I just couldn't believe it. I mentioned the water bottles in the beginning of the video. So it was water bottle waste and just everything. And the thing is we're just getting loads and loads of lumber every single day. We're building all this stuff. And again, when they're done shooting, it goes in the trash. I mean, the film business is one of the biggest. I don't know how it is today. There's all the CGI stuff and everything else. But when I was doing it in the 90s, it was one of the most wasteful organizations I had ever seen. And it just was really crazy. Anyhow, that's it. That's the end of this video now. Thanks for being here. Hope I answered that fully. And I'll catch you guys in the next one. Have a great day.